Welcome, innovative viewers, to today's episode of Science and Spirituality. Does mood or state of mind affect how our brain perceives the world? Does having a constructive or negative attitude really make a difference? And what do scientists have to say about this? A research team from the Department of Psychology at the University of Toronto, Canada, recently published their findings in the prestigious Journal of Neuroscience on how our emotional states affect our brain's ability, specifically the visual cortex, or part of the brain responsible for detecting simple visual stimuli to perceive the world. The principal investigator of the study is Adam K. Anderson, professor of psychology and the Canada Research Chair in Affective Neuroscience at the university. The lead author of the study is Taylor Schmitz, a PhD student at the university and our guest on today's program. He will be discussing the study's fascinating conclusions. The idea for the study came from prior experiments where it was shown that one's state of mind has an influence on the level of one's cognition or creativity, such as the ability to use abstract thinking to analogize between two words. It was found that those with a constructive attitude had a much easier time accomplishing these types of tasks.
So we did these studies using behavioral tasks, and what we were interested in this current study is seeing if we could extend our behavioral observations to the level of neural activity and actually observe changes in patterns of neural activity in the brain while people were engaged in positive and negative moods.
Taylor now provides details on how the experiment was conducted.
What we did is we had a series of undergraduate students that we recruited from the university. And these are healthy, roughly early 20s. It involved basically doing a task where they saw a series of positive, negative, and neutral images, and also a visual spatial task, which I'll get to in a moment. But they just did this task while they were laying in the bore of a scanner, of the MRI scanner. And while they did the task, we measured their brain activity. So that was how we did the study.
The emotional reaction of the students to the images shown was also quantified by way of a numerical scale.
Well, so we didn't only measure positive affect in terms of neural activity. We also asked the subjects to respond, to self-report how they felt while they were in the scanner. So we would show them images, and they would determine, we would give them a rating scale during which they would rate the positivity of their emotional state on a scale of 1 to 9, with 5 being kind of neutral and 9 being the most positive state that they could be in, and 1 being the most negative state they could be in.
After viewing a series of positive, neutral, or negative images, a test was given.
We had images of a face stimulus that was presented in the center of the screen in a very small, centrally located area. And the subject had to look at this face and just simply determine whether the face was a male or a female. Now, surrounding the image of the face was an image of a house or a building that was in the periphery. And so the face was sort of superimposed over this.
Taylor explains the significance of the images featuring a face together with the house.
Now, why did we do these sort of random stimulus categories? The reason is because there's areas in the visual cortex of the brain that process these two types of information, and that they're sort of anatomically dissociable. So there's an area in the brain that processes specifically face information. It's known as the fusiform face area. And there's also another area of the visual cortex that processes, seems to be predisposed to processing place information. This is known as the parahippocampal place area. And so this is in an anatomically distinct location in the visual cortex. And so when you show a person an image of a face and a place at the same time, these areas of the brain will both light up, as it were. However, when you actually focus your attention onto the face stimulus, this causes your brain to actually enhance that information in the visual cortex. So you can consider attention as almost like a spotlight.
By examining the activation in these two areas of the visual cortex, it was found that those with negative feelings were less able to fully process the picture, particularly the information beyond the gender of the face, namely the house or place information. In other words, having constructive or positive feelings allowed the brain to grasp the entire image of both the face and the house more easily.
And when they were in a negative state, they processed the place information even less compared again to the neutral state. So the attentional spotlight seems to be kind of constraining the search area in negative states of what they're processing. So they're only really processing the faces. By contrast, when they're in a positive state, their attention seems to be somewhat relaxed, as kind of a way of putting it. So they actually encode more of that place information unintentionally.
When we return, we will discuss with Taylor Schmitz what these findings mean in practical terms. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television.